Today's story is Lost and Found by Oliver Jeffers. Once there was a boy, and one day he found a penguin at his door. It's a funny thing to find on your doorstep. The boy didn't know where it had come from, but began to follow him everywhere. The penguin looked sad, and the boy thought it must be lost. So the boy decided to help the penguin find its way home. He checked in the Lost and Found office, but no one was missing a penguin. He asked some birds if they knew where the penguin had come from, but they ignored him. Some birds are like that. The boy asked his duck, but the duck floated away. He didn't know. That night the boy could not sleep. For disappointment, he wanted to help the penguin, but he didn't know how to. The next morning, he discovered that penguins come from the South Pole. But how am I going to get there, he thought. He ran down to the harbour and asked a big ship to take them to the South Pole. But his voice was much too small to be heard over the ship's horn. So, together, he and the penguin would row to the South Pole. The boy took his rowboat out of the cupboard and they tested it for size and strength. They packed everything they would need, and together they pushed the rowboat out to sea. They rowed south for many days and nights, with the boy telling stories all the way, and the penguin listened to everything that the boy had to say. They floated through good weather and bad, and when the waves were as big as mountains, until they came to the South Pole. There they are. The boy was delighted, but the penguin said nothing, and suddenly it looked sad again as the boy helped it out of the boat. The boy said goodbye and then floated away again, but as he looked back, the penguin looked sadder and sadder. It felt strange to be on his own. The more he thought, the more he realised he was making a big mistake. The penguin wasn't lost, he was just lonely. Quickly he turned the boat around and headed back to the South Pole as fast as he could. At last he reached the pole again, but where was the penguin? The boy searched and searched, but he was nowhere to be found. Can you see where he is? Sadly, the boy set off for home, and there was no point telling stories because there was no one to listen to except the wind and the waves. But then the boy, he saw something in the water ahead of him. Closer and closer he got until he could see the penguin. The penguin had chased after him. They were happy, weren't they, to see each other? And so the boy and his friend went home together talking of wonderful things all the way. It's nice to have a friend. I hope you can find a friend for all of your toys, because no toy wants to be lonely and no person wants to be lonely. So make sure no one you know is feeling lonely.